Welcome back to Creating Stuff with Jim. I'm Jim, and it's time to create stuff. Well, we've been working pretty hard on getting the engine, transmission, both transfer cases ready to install an Inferno. And guess what? Now we're getting to the point where it's time to get Inferno ready to get us new drivetrain. So before we do that, I got to take it down to the car wash and get it cleaned up. And since it's got no engine in it, I have to hook one of my trailers up and carry it on down there. Let's go. Let's get to work. Well, there you have it. It fits. The factory 3-liter V6 frame mounts actually took this 3.4 without an issue. All I had to do was put the 3.0 block mounts on the 3.4 and it went right in. This is awesome. This saves a little bit of work, but there's still a lot more to go. So I say let's get to work on getting this transmission, and why wait? Let's get to work. This is going to be some tips and tricks for anyone who has never installed an automatic transmission before. I want to show you a few things and point out a few things that will help you if you ever put your first automatic transmission in. And probably one of the biggest, most important things is when you put it in, is you need to make sure this torque converter is seated all the way. And because when you put it in, unfortunately I'm not taking it off because this was a good driving unit, a good operating unit, and didn't no leaks, so I'd rather not disturb that seal in there, so I'm leaving the torque converter in. But once again, if the torque converter has been out to have the transmission rebuilt and you got to put a new torque converter in it, you have to make sure that's seated all the way. And even if you're putting a used one in like I am, make sure it's seated all the way, because if you don't, you can actually crack the housing of the transmission. And biggest way to tell is when you turn it around, is I can actually feel the torque converter, actually the casting of the torque converter, I can actually feel it rubbing at the back of the housing. That tells me it's seated all the way. If it's not, because it has to engage the oil pump, the stator, the impeller, and the lockup. So all those things have to engage in this torque converter. So when you spin it around, you're gonna feel the torque converter drop in like a 1/4 inch at a time until it's fully seated. Like I said, I can actually feel it rubbing the back of the housing, so I know it's fully seated. And for any reason, if you don't know, you just have to take a measurement. You take a measurement from this face to the face of where the torque converter bolts onto the flex plate, and then you measure the same distance on the engine. And as long as this measurement is more than the other measurement, then you're seated all the way, and you're going to be safe. You're not going to break anything. So, but if it's not seated all the way, and you tighten down these bell housing bolts, you can break the case. You'll destroy a lot of stuff. You can ask any person that rebuilds automatic transmissions. That's the biggest thing that brings transmissions back to them, is because someone did not install the torque converter all the way and they broke the transmission. So, and a lot of times when they build them, they'll install the torque converter and they will put a brace on it to make sure it doesn't come unseated. So, anyways, that's very important. The other one to pay attention to are these mounting bolts. Or not mounting bolts, but these bolts bolt the torque converter to the flex plate. Is basically these bolts go in these holes right here. And always pay very close attention. And when you take these bolts out, keep them separate, mark them that they're torque converter bolts, so you only use these bolts. So, and the reason being is because these tabs that are welded on, they're through bolted. There's no, the bottom is the front of this torque converter housing. So if this bolt is too long, it'll actually dimple. When it does that, the back side of this is there's actually a clutch, and that's to lock the converter up to save fuel economy and to reduce heat. And if you put 6 dimples in there, when it goes to lock up, it's either going to chatter when it locks up, or it's going to slip. So neither are very good, and the only solution is you got to pull the transmission out, replace torque converter. So anyways, always make sure you get the right. Make sure you keep these bolts marked for the torque converter. And if you don't have them or lost them, is most manufacturers, you can buy them brand new. So you know they're the right length. Otherwise, you have to get bolts and you have to cut them and measure them and make sure that they're the proper length. So anyways, so those are two tips for putting a transmission, an automatic transmission, if you've never done it. Make sure the torque converter is fully seated, and make sure you have the right torque converter bolts that go through the flex plate. Well, I accidentally lost the footage of me putting the transmission in, so I'm just going to have a little clip of me wrestling with getting the torque converters bolted in. So, well, I'm going to quit my yak and we're going to get back to work. Well, we got the torque converter all bolted up. The transmission is completely in. That's a good job. Now, since I've never done this swap or conversion before, and a few things I'm doing are a little different than what this chassis is meant for, is really what it is. I was hoping I was going to get the entire engine, transmission, transfer cases in before I started cutting the front suspension out, but unfortunately the output shaft for the front transfer case is going to land right about here. So this bracket has to go just so I can get the two transfer cases in. So you know what, it is what it is, and sometimes you got to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Well, that was a lot of work, but we got the engine in, we got the transmission in, we got the crawl box and the full transfer case in. So that was a lot of work. It's kind of warm out today, so but that's about all I got for today. Like I said, when we go on to the next one, we gotta look at mounting this. This is the cross member that's going to hold the transfer cases that hold the rear end of the drivetrain up. So it's actually meant for a Tacoma, but it's meant to go with this transfer case. So we're going to set it up and see how it works, and see if what we got to modify to make it fit. But that's going to be the next time. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, tag, share, and with your friends, please leave a comment. Like I said, I hope you're enjoying this. I hope this can inspire you to tackle a project you have and not be afraid of it. So anyways, but until next time, keep creating.